This time at Roadkill Garage, the El Camino gets a new lease on life with fresh 454 power.
Man, there's gold medal examples of doing the wrong thing the right way. I've been looking for an El Camino for a long time. I just sort of dig the whole utility of a hot rod car that can actually carry engines. That's my main goal. And despite the fact that A-Cam Alex on our crew actually vomits in his mouth just a little bit every single time he thinks of an El Camino, he couldn't talk me out of it, so I had to have one anyway. Now, of course, I was looking for like 65, 66 would be premium units, 70 to 72, but eventually I had to give up because those are expensive, and I bought a 73 or 4, I can't even remember which, sight unseen. Why? It's a big block and a 4-speed. It might even be an SS. Thing is, I've never seen it before. Dulcich has. He digs it, so we're gonna go have a look right now.
Look at that thing.
The main thing about this that hooked me in the ad...
Let me guess.
What?
The Daisy mags.
Premium.
Yes.
Premium. And then the big block and the 4-speed. The interior is pretty gross. The dash is more hashed than I thought.
Really? The interior is actually way better than our norm. By far.
It says SS. Do you believe it?
Absolutely.
Every Chevy in the country says SS on it when it's not really. How do you open? Oh, you know what? It's a 73, I guess. Ooh, you have to pull the inside cable. These are unacceptable. The headlights, ooh. Do you have a hammer with you?
No.
No?
But it has bucket seats, so it's probably an SS, right?
Oh, they're not the swivel kind. They're aftermarket, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, are they?
I think so.
Yeah.
Is there a cable?
Oh, there's something here that says hood.
There you go. Ooh, boom. When I saw the ad for this, it said it's a 454, and it said it has a bad cam. Wow, that does look like somebody installed it fairly recently, judging by the spray can rebuild.
Goodness, this thing is not a spray can rebuild. This is a late model GM Performance Parts crate motor is what we're looking at.
No, those are painted heads. They're not actually aluminum. Those are iron. I don't know, somebody's definitely messed with this recently. They didn't do a good job, but...
Well, actually, it's better than I would have expected. It looks like a hot rod under there.
So here's my plan, Steve.
Yeah, listening.
I mean, we have to try and make it run, but the ad said it has a bad cam. Who knows if the guy knew what he was talking about?
Right.
I think we need to fire it up, troubleshoot it, and my guess is that we're gonna pull it out, take it apart, and rebuild it like, I wanna do it as cheaply as possible. We're talking dingle ball, use the same heads, nothing trick, just average stuff.
Yeah, it looks like you've already got a pretty good base to work off of. We just need to know what parts to order as far as rings and bearing sizes and stuff like that.
It's got a lot of new stuff. It's not an air conditioning car. You know, that's huge for me because it doesn't have all that junk there.
Yeah.
Have you tried to start it at all?
No.
Oh, try it.
Ready?
Yep. Oof. Dead battery?
Must have a clutch interlock.
Dead battery. Ah! All right, let's drag this thing in. We'll mess with it in the shop.
I want to hear it run.
Ooh. Overall first impressions, a little rougher than I expected, but I think we can make it great. Steve?
Yes?
I have somewhat of a hypocritical admission to make.
This is going to be like your confessional, isn't it?
It is.
And I'm going to have to absorb all of it. I'm ready for you.
You know how I'm super disparaging of people who come up with stupid names for their cars just because they think every car needs a name?
Yeah, I know. We did a whole Roadkill extra about that topic.
That's right,
yes.
we did. I admit I saw the ad, wanted to get the vehicle, and named it before I'd ever laid eyes on it.
What did you name it?
It is the El Cochino. El Cochino.
No entiendo por qué no habla español.
The pig.
The pig?
The pig!
El cochino?
It's a big, fat pig.
You have been known to buy cars just based on coming up with a name.
Well, no, a concept, anyway.
Yeah. Okay, El cochino it is.
We have to make this garbage run like a pig. I would kind of like to see if we can get the 454 to fire or at least troubleshoot it.
That would be a good start, yeah.
There we go.
Where's the safety catch?
Oh, the first thing I'm gonna do is lube the hinges of this thing when we were outside. They were gnarly.
You know, it looks really good.
I think somebody freshly built this motor and threw it in there based on how new everything is.
Yeah.
And then they tried to break in the cam and it went flat and they gave up. So I don't want to just pull it. I want to troubleshoot a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of extra stuff in here that I don't approve of. Like these relays and extra wiring. And
that's a little garish.
And then look at the heater hoses. They're routed diagonally across there. It makes no sense.
I know. I wouldn't put them over that strut rod like that.
Gotta go around. They're not even connected to anything.
I thought they were connected to the heater core.
Look at that.
Wow.
That is unnecessary. That'll have to go.
I spotted some pretty cool stuff in the bed, though.
Lead the way, Freiburger.
I can't wait. There's one thing I spotted that I really wanted to dig out. Are you ready for it?
Sure.
What do you think?
Oh, that's a great gear drive. What brand is that?
You think it's a Pete Jackson?
No, it's a
Oh, it's an Urson. It's an
Urson?
Urson gear. This came from Super Shops in 1982.
Yeah, because the Pete Jackson would have been a dual idler. This is actually a premium unit.
Explain it to the audience.
What you have is a crank gear, an intermediate gear, and the cam gear.
So that replaces a timing chain. Why would you want to do that?
Well, I mean, this will never wear out, and it gives you really accurate timing. I actually did
it does?
I did a timing drive set test for Carcraft magazine, and I ran a chain, one of these, a Pete Jackson dual idler setup, and a Jessel belt drive.
That's a lot of work.
This was the best.
No way.
It was.
The Urson?
You know, I'm looking a little more closely at this, and I think this is a private labeled Mylodon.
Yeah, I think so too. Oh, does this have a Demon carburetor on it? Because it has a Demon carburetor rebuild kit. It's unopened. This is actually useful.
Here's a box.
Man, what's this big?
Oh, a heater core.
Oh, that explains something.
I know, that's why the hoses are disconnected.
I noticed the radiator has a dual fan setup. This is a good one. Oh, there's an oil pump. That's not a good sign.
Manifold gaskets.
Is that a stock camshaft?
I think this is the original camshaft.
Yeah, it
and
must
it's
be.
a hydraulic flat tap cam.
And it went flat on the new one. Oh, these seat belts might go with the car. Oh, it's got a whole heater box.
Is there one in the car?
I don't know.
This truck is completely rust-free. It's a brand new truck.
You know what? It's really hard to pull an engine up against the tailgate, too.
And there's no tie down.
Ah, maybe this is useless as a truck, and I was counting on it being great.
Yeah.
Should we start wrenching?
Yeah.
Okay. The seller said this thing has a bad cam, and we've tried to start it, and definitely something is funky with it. But Steve noticed that there's no fuel in the fuel filter, so he's got the apparatus.
Apparatus, which will also assure there'll be no fuel in the filter because they usually do not lift.
It said it lifts right on the package.
I don't believe the package.
I don't either.
Do you?
No.
What I have is an electric fuel pump that's got alligator clips that are going to get power from the battery, suck fuel out of the jerry can right down on the ground, and supply the carburetor. Although it probably won't lift, so none of the fuel will actually exit the jerry can and make its way to the carburetor. At least that's what I suspect, so.
Yeah, what lift means is that it's a type of pump that can actually drag fuel uphill, overcome gravity, and pretty much none of these things do that anymore.
Is this Positivo right here?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And this one is negatory?
Yep. See. Oh, it did it!
Whoa!
Wow, we gotta give Edelbrock credit. It said lift pump, and it is. And that is now spraying fuel from the carburetor, I believe. Yes, it is. Do the honors, Steve.
That is victory, okay.
Yeah. Give it the Dulcich pump job. Wow. Whoa. That was good.
It fired right up.
It did. Doesn't run good.
Again.
Let's not get it too hot. I think we definitely need to pull the valve covers. It's making a big clack. It's running on 7.
It is?
Yeah.
Sounded like it was running great to me.
Even with all that backfiring and clacking and rough running?
We've got to crawl underneath and cut the wires to whatever's making that horrific fuel pump noise.
Yeah, that's annoying. Let's pull the valve covers.
Okay.
We fired it up. You saw the big fireball. I think it was running on 7. It was definitely making a clacking noise. So what we're gonna do is pull the valve covers off and see if it actually has a flat cam, which was the seller's diagnosis. What we're gonna look for is if one of the rocker arms is super loose. That would mean that the lifter is wearing out and has caused a bunch of slack in the valve train. Fine?
Yeah, the valves need to be adjusted.
Okay, other side. There we go. What we just discovered is a whole bunch of lash on one of the exhaust rockers. And in fact, it's marked with an X, meaning somebody else has already been here and discovered that and labeled it. And our determination then is that it does have what's called a flat cam, and we're probably gonna have to pull the whole engine out and take it apart, because generally a flat cam puts metal everywhere in the engine. However, the good news is we don't see any metal in the oil under the valve cover.
No, it's probably just a basic freshen up and put back together. We don't need to see any more.
No.
It's got a flat cam.
Let's pull it. Oh, man. This thing is ridiculous. Right, this is a high-performance passenger car engine, and I checked the block casting number, and it is indeed a 454. The other thing that I noted is that these are the 049 casting number cylinder heads. That makes them some of the best large oval ports that you can get. And even though Steve's gonna complain that they're super heavy, we're probably just gonna reuse them, although I don't know what's going on right here. Man, this guy just glopped RTV everywhere. We need an engine stand now. Whoa, that was barely installed. Look at that. Which lifter is it? Oh, I can see it right there. We just found the dead lifter. You can see the worn out cam, and the lifter is mushroomed at the bottom, and so you can't get it out. When I was at the machine shop, what we would do is disassemble the whole motor, flip it upside down, and pound the thing through.
Yeah, or you can just take the cam out and push it out the bottom.
That would be way smarter. Steve always gets mad when you do this. He insists that doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
And it does, every time.
I did it. Ah!
Whoa!
I panicked when I got water all over my foot.
Good catch, Steve.
I know.
Those heads weigh like 70 pounds each.
90.
Maybe more. Yep, there we go. I've got the front.
What's holding it?
Just glue.
No, really?
Yes. Oh, the guy left nothing on the table when it came to RTVing the pan.
Wow, that's a lot of glucose on there.
He did not mess around. Did it come right off? There we go. Here comes the camshaft.
Got the camshaft out?
Of course. What do you think this is, Steve? You gonna mansplain me camshaft removal at this point in our relationship? Come on. Now that it's out, I can give you a complete and comprehensive understanding of the failure point. This is a good lifter. This is a failed lifter. Look at it. You can see that it's completely cupped, not flat at all, and completely wiped. You can also see that that much metal has been ground off of it, and that metal has gone through the engine. That's why we have to keep taking it apart and have a look at all the bearings to make sure they're okay. I can see a little bit of glitter in the oil pan. Duh. We took this thing apart just enough to know that we have, what, 10 under rods and mains?
Right.
5/64 ring, and we gotta polish the crank.
And it's 30 over.
Right. So we can order parts now, so the next time you see us, it's gonna be a few weeks from now. We will have sent this crank out to get polished, or if we take it the rest of the way apart and it's really gacked, then maybe it'll have to be ground another 10. Right. And then when you see us again, we'll be slamming it back together, getting it in the El Camino, and boom!
Boom?
Boom!
Boom?
Bang shift!
Oh!
Yeah.
Boom!
What's the episode without you blowing up that transmission?
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
All right.
And over-revving the engine, of course.
We'll be back.
We will.
But for you, it'll seem like it's a full month later, maybe even more. We've mopped up the mess that's on the floor. Steve took the 454 all the way back apart, sent it to the machine shop, had the block jet washed. What'd they do to the crank?
They ground it. It was 1010 originally, and it looked a little too scored to me, so I went 20 under on both the rods and the mains. Okay. So I think that's going to be good to go. I had them do it on the low side for a little extra clearance, and that was it for the machine shop. Just a hose down on the block, crank grind, and the rest is going to be
scrubbing parts.
Yeah, which is really time consuming, but it saves a bunch of money. You wanted to do it dirt cheap, so that's the way to do it.
The one thing that's really expensive is we're going to convert it to a hydraulic roller camshaft. The rest of it we're just going to booger together. Or Steve is, because he's going to clean this thing up. I'm going to go start disastering the wiring under the hood.
Yeah, the main thing that needs to be done to the block, and now this block was completely rebuilt when the cam got wiped, so it's already overboard 30 over. The bores look pretty good, but they're scratched up from the cam metal debris, just like vertical scratches. So I'm gonna hand hone those out.
All right, let's get to it.
All right.
Wiring, honing, go.
All right.
Here's my mess right here. Somebody absolutely wired this thing like a disaster, and they were completely in love with this plastic covering that I can't stand. They used red wires as ground here and here. I'm not gonna completely rewire this thing, but I should be able to make less of a mess out of it. Once I'm done with that, I'll roll it outside and do the standard Freiberger pressure wash so that our 454 looks spectacular when we get it back in. Okay, this you have to see. So down here, he's got a ground wire on the frame, which is always good to ground things to the frame, but then you follow it up and you find out that this same wire is grounded here to this bolt. And then this bolt has a ground over to this bolt, which has a ground that goes back into this wire, which goes over here to the ground above the ballast resistor. This wire does nothing but ground itself 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. That's all it does. That's amazing.
I love when Freiberger finds stuff like that because he just cracks himself up.
That's all this wire does.
He's not easily amused either.
Oh, it's so funny.
One of the things I noticed when I took the block apart were vertical scratches from debris in the cylinders, scratching up the cylinder wall. So I'm gonna hand hone it, and I'm gonna do it in a 2-step process. I'm gonna use a rigid deglazing tool. Some people call this a hone. It's actually a deglazer. The rigid stones are gonna scratch that up with a nice 45-degree crosshatch. And then I'm gonna go in with a 600 grit brush hone, and that's pretty fine, but it's only gonna take the peaks off of what I do with the rigid hone, and that's just gonna give me a nice plateaued finish.
I cut all the spaghetti out of here. There's still wiring that's a mess, but at least I know what this mess does, and I don't wanna neaten it up until, you know, it's all cleaned and ready to go. And so we're gonna go outside. Steve's gonna pressure wash the engine block, and then I'm gonna clean all this up so that we can start the, putting it back together process.
The El Camino is still drying outside, but I've moved the block inside. I want to go ahead and paint the thing next. And the thing is, after I washed it, I kind of went over the machine surfaces with penetrating oil so they wouldn't flash rust. And before I paint it, of course, I've got to get that residue off. So I'm going to clean it with some brake cleaner, and then I'm going to proceed to paint it beautifully. And while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to be cleaning other parts. You might have noticed that I did a very rudimentary and basic masking job, and the reason is I'm using spray can paint, and I want to save time. That's not a problem. I've got some overspray here and there, but it wipes off instantly. I've got the block painted, and I'm just waiting for that to dry, so that'll give me the perfect opportunity to come over here and clean up all of these really filthy engine parts. Here's the condition of the piston and rod assembly as it came out of the engine, and you can see the piston crown is pretty carboned up, and I can feel it feels kind of fuzzy with debris on the skirt. So, cleaned it all up in the solvent tank, and ta-da! Looks pretty good to me, and all I have to do is 7 more, and I'll be ready to go. So what we're doing here is the most basic level of engine overhaul, and that's rings, bearings, and gaskets. And the reason is the rings seat into the certain position, and these are micro-scratched by the debris that ran through the engine. So I don't think they're going to seal, and they're just going to be replaced. The bearings were all scored up, so obviously they had to go, and the rods are pressed onto the piston, so that's going to stay as an assembly. They're going to clean this all up and reuse the piston and rod. Then I'll move on to the rest of these parts, and when I'm done, I'll have everything ready for assembly.
I'm here measuring ring end gap. That means the space between the ends of the piston ring when it is compressed and inside the cylinder. The reason that you need that end gap is that when the ring heats up and expands, the gap gets smaller, and if the ends of the ring touch each other, then they bow up and break the piston, and it's complete game over. Here's how I'm gonna measure this, and remember there's 2 compression rings on each piston, so I'm gonna have to do this twice. Actually, you should check the oil rings as well, but they're not quite as critical. They usually have enough gap in them. So I'm gonna slide it into the cylinder like this, then push it down like so. You gotta get the ring square in the cylinder. And normally you would use a special tool that will do that, or you can take a piston, turn it upside down and slide it in there. Unfortunately, we don't have the tool, and our pistons have a dome that prevents that. So I came up with this scheme. You can see I've got a dial caliper here with the stick that comes out the end of it. You can see that it's got a notch in it right there. So I'm gonna use that notch to push on the piston ring so that I can get it square all the way around. Once that is done, you just take a conventional feeler gauge with a bunch of blades like this, and you want to put them in that gap and find out the one that fits in there most snugly. And what I know from having pre-measured this is that's 23 thousandths of an inch. That's too small. The manufacturer recommends 27 thousandths. Honestly, I'm gonna make them 30 to 32. The main bearings are in, and we slipped in the rear main seal. I'm lubing them up. I cleaned the crankshaft. Steve measured the crankshaft to verify that the journals are, in fact, 1/1000th of an inch undersized, to verify that we're gonna definitely have the main bearing clearance that we need, probably too much. Steve, you ready with the crank? And install it.
Oh, just what I was afraid of.
What?
Can you grab? No. There's not very much back clearance between this engine stand and that.
Oh.
It's a finger pincher.
I thought you meant something I cared about. I don't care about your finger.
Oh, I do. What I'm doing right now is preparing for the installation of the piston and rod assemblies. I'm going to install the rings, and then I'm going to put the bearings on. I'm going to dunk the whole head of the piston in a coffee can full of oil. The reason is it's a pressed pin, and they've been pressed before we cleaned everything up, and there's no lubrication left between the piston and the pin whatsoever. So that's totally dry, and it's really, really hard to try to get lube in there. And then I will install the pistons, and the oil will drag down with the piston. But I can assure you there will be an oily mess.
The biggest expense we've got in this entire rebuild is that we decided to go with a hydraulic roller camshaft. Why? Well, you saw that the flat tappet cam didn't break in properly and wiped out this entire engine. To prevent that from happening again, we're going with the roller instead of the flat tappet. The actual camshaft we're going to install is a Comp Cam's Thumper, which means it's got that hot for teacher sound, blah, 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 blah. And it does that because it's got a big split in duration and a very tight lobe separation angle. It's 235 and 249 at 50 is the duration. Lobe sep is 107, and the lift on it's 558 and 542. We are doing the conversion hydraulic roller. There are some blocks that are designed from the factory to use a hydraulic roller cam, and they don't use the link bar. They use that big spider, but this is the standard conversion. I'm just gonna throw the lifters in the oil and let them soak a bit before we use them, and I'll install the cam. We're ready to install our camshaft. Steve and I noticed that this is a billet camshaft, which means it's cut out of one piece of metal instead of being cast. You can tell the difference by looking between the lobes. The texture will tell you that it's cast. Typically one with machining marks like this is billet. The reason you need to know that is we don't know if this gear has been like welded on here and polished, and if the gear is billet or if it's actually like ductile iron or another material. The reason you have to know that anytime you're installing a camshaft is if your distributor gear is harder than your camshaft gear, you're gonna have problems. They're gonna wear out really quickly. The bottom line is you really wanna ask your cam manufacturer if the gear on the camshaft is compatible with the gear that you have on your distributor. They might tell you that you need to run a bronze gear or ductile iron gear or an austempered gear. There's all sorts of things like that. So ask the question like I will with comp cams in the morning. The gasket, instead of using RTV, I'm going to grease it. Steve and I like this tip. If you trust a machined sealing surface, you can grease instead of RTV, and it comes apart much more easily later on. And we have to take it apart because we blew it up again. Steve liked that one.
I know, you want to plan for that contingency, right?
Right.
Because how long is it going to be before we have to blow this apart again? You know, and address the bearing clearance issue, and the wrong head gasket, and then cam timing, too loose of a thrust button. On the piston rings.
The cylinder wall scoring from the chunks in the wall of the piston.
All the debris in the main oil galley.
The distributor gear failing.
The billet cam.
The wrong valve spring.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're
man.
too soft for the hydraulic flat tap. We got a roller.
Oh. The valve's hitting the piston. Cutting corners, the Roadkill Garage way.
Oh, man.
Will we laugh this hard when it's all true?
It is all true, and that's the funny part.
We're punch drunk. Here's how this is going to work installing the cylinder heads. I'm going to clean off the deck surface as well as I can with some brake clean. Do the same to the cylinder head. Make sure the cylinder head is clean. Then I'm going to drop the gasket on, make sure it lines up with all of the holes that it needs to. Then I'll put the cylinder head in place. Then we'll put the bolts in. The bolts on this are going to need sealer on them because the holes are not blind. They go into water. And of course, the last thing that will happen is torquing all the bolts to spec.
What I'm getting ready to do next is put in the push rods. Now, what length push rod do I really need? That can vary with a lot of different factors, like the valve stem length, the cylinder head design, the camshaft base circle, just head gasket thickness, how much stuff is milled. You name it, it can affect the required push rod length. So how do you know? Well, you can check it. Really, the right way to do it is to use a checking push rod, which is an adjustable thing like this. And you put a lightweight checking spring instead of the regular valve spring so you don't compress the plunger in the hydraulic lifter while you're trying to check it. Then you rotate the crankshaft through 2 full revolutions so that you've gone through the full cycle of intake and exhaust events. And then you look at the pattern on the tip of the valve, which you have set up by putting a little marker mark or some die chem on there so it'll leave a little imprint or a telltale. I didn't do any of that. All I did was drop in a pair of push rods like I have right here and here, and those are the ones that came in the kit, which are supposed to be correct for this setup. And then I put a rocker arm in position as a mock-up, had the camshaft parked at the base circle, which is at 0 lift, and push rod looked a little long to me. Through my experienced eye, I would say about 50 thousandths from optimum, but more than good enough to run very well and not give us any kind of trouble.
All right, we're adjusting the valves now on a hydraulic. It's pretty easy. You just tighten it down so that you've got no lash at all, then we go another half turn. And you can do that because the hydraulic plunger inside the lifter will move a little bit, so you preload it with half a turn. All right, this is an Edelbrock Performer 2 oval port. Probably not what I would select, but good enough.
It's a brand new day, and I'm really super, super happy and proud of our brand new motor, which is not brand new, but it is a motor. I think we put the flywheel on and we dropped the motor in the car. How about that?
Yeah.
And maybe the clutch, too?
I was gonna suggest the clutch.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I'll go grab the flywheel.
The Chevy is super convenient because it has that alignment pin.
Yep, all right, safety bolt is threaded. And safety bolt is bottomed.
Okay.
Okay, now stop.
That's as far as it's gonna go. We need to put floor jacks underneath.
Okay, you're clear. Yeah, this is where it's gonna hit the motor mounts before it goes into the input shaft.
It looks pretty good. Maybe we just put a ratchet strap between the water neck and the top bar, and we can put some angle in that then.
We need a little bit more tilt to the engine, and so we're gonna take a ratchet strap and wrap it from here to here and pull it so that we get a little bit of that.
Okay, go ahead and lower it a little.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
There we go. That's what we needed. Finally, we got the engine installed. Now we just have to get all the widgets bolted on, and we'll be firing this thing up, hopefully today.
Here's a little bit of tech that you probably didn't have to pay attention to way back when, but now you do. Now, it turned out that our camshaft, which is a roller cam, hydraulic roller, is ground on a billet core. What does that mean to you? It means that the stock steel distributor gear is not going to be compatible. Now, when Freiberger was talking about this topic, we weren't sure about the composition of the cam, and he said if it is a billet core, we can run an Aus-tempered gear or a bronze gear. Well, actually, it's not Aus-tempered. There's a melanized gear available, which is a surface treatment for a regular steel gear, and we really don't trust that, so we obtained a couple of bronze gears, which we know will work. So why do we have two here? Well, the reason is there's two common shaft diameters. The stock ones are 491 and the aftermarket ones are typically 500. So we weren't sure what this distributor had. Freiberger ordered both. What you do is you knock the roll pin out, then the distributor gear will slide off, we'll slide on the other one, and this thing will be ready for installation.
Steve described that you need a bronze distributor gear for a billet cam. You also need a bronze tipped fuel pump push rod. I'm going to install it. I'm going to slop a bunch of grease on it so that it holds up in its hole. Then I'm going to put the Allen wrench in. Then I'm going to lube the gasket with some grease, and then I'm going to slam it home. The carburetor drop is when it starts to look like an engine. There. It's almost like we're finished. Nice.
There was no way I was going to crawl under this car and stick this filthy old starter right back in, so we sent our guy Mason over to the local auto parts and picked up this reman from Duralast. I think it'll work way better.
Pretty sure this goes in here like so. It's been a long day. We still have some stuff to neaten up, but we need that validation of actually trying to run it. I think of all the things here, what I don't trust is the wiring. I'm not sure it's gonna work.
Well, there's only one way to find out.
I don't know. I hacked so much wire out of it, and then you, like, did something. I don't know. All right, find out if the key even works.
Ready?
Yep. Oh, wow, look at that. Let me check oil pressure.
That's cranking gangbusters.
That's great. Let's see if it has oil pressure. It's got oil pressure. Okay, now we have to figure out why it doesn't have spark. Okay, that's grounded. Hold on, let me check it. Okay, checking for spark. Yep. All right, I found a ground that wasn't attached. Now we have spark, so it should fire up. Go for it. That's gonna run. Except for the timing being way wrong.
It's kind of weird because we put a lot of advance into it, don't we?
I know. Somehow I never get this right. I don't know why. Okay, go. There we go. That's what it needs. All right, yeah, it runs. Tomorrow morning, we time it, neaten it up, put the hood on, and drive.
Hit the road.
Steve's gonna fire it up. Now I'm gonna set the final timing. Let me look at the initial first.
Yeah.
Because it has a, you know, mechanical in it. That's only about 10 degrees. I'll give it a hair more. 3/4, half, quarter. Don't tell me now it doesn't have spark.
It doesn't have spark.
Okay. Power on both sides of the ballast resistor. Ooh, barely any power to that side of the ballast resistor.
I would get rid of the ballast resistor.
Yeah. It's weird. We've had trouble with the ignition, sometimes sparking and sometimes not. We've narrowed it down to, I think this ballast resistor is probably cutting the voltage too much. It's only giving me 4 volts to the coil, so I'm gonna end up bypassing that. On the timing front, I've got that dialed in now. It is at 12 degrees initial and it swings to 36 total. Now I'm gonna jump this ballast resistor, essentially bypassing it, and see if it fixes our intermittent problem. If it does, I can take the resistor out completely. Try it. So I'm just gonna take the ballast resistor out of there.
Yeah, it's at, what do you have it at now? Total.
33.
That's fine.
We had a new ballast resistor left over from my Duster, and so we just installed that. We're gonna find out if it works. Well, see if it runs.
All right.
All right, everything's good. I think we're ready to install the hood and get out of here. See if it works.
Man, I like the chop.
Me too. It sounds nasty with that thumper cam.
And the exhaust sounds pretty good too.
And no leaks. Woo! That thing has wheel hop bad.
Yeah. No wonder there were 3 sets of shocks in the bed. That was a problem they couldn't conquer.
Maybe there's no shocks on it. That's possible.
It is possible.
It has a little bit of a bog, although it's dead cold.
Yeah, I wouldn't even call that a bog. Look, it's like taking off in second gear. This has got like a 2-handle gear.
It might.
Oh, dude.
What?
I want to shake hands. That
Not even bro shake.
The 454 build was just a success.
I noticed when it was running, it has a no blow-by. Listen to that smoothness.
This thing is beyond awesome. I'll just roll into it.
Ah. Feels pretty good.
Yeah.
Was that wide open?
Yeah.
I think the secondaries aren't opening fast enough.
It opened up though. They did open.
Did you hear it do the honk?
I felt it in the gas pedal.
Okay. Think of all the viewers at home looking at us going, it's a brand new motor. They didn't even break it in and they're out there driving it like idiots.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my opinion is with a roller cam, once it's running,
it's broken
in.
Ooh. Yeah, you can't go first.
No.
You can't go wide open first gear because it just wants to break the tires loose and wheel hop.
Oh, it'll break the trans of the drive shaft or something. That's horrible. Oh, there's stuff flying everywhere. Oh, look, gauges flew out of the dash.
That's what that was.
Through the temperature
Another
gauge,
one.
out of the dash.
We better save these. It's the fuel gauge. That might come in handy someday.
We may need that. Wow. What a great example of not getting it right, but getting it running. We cut a whole lot of corners on that 454, but you know what? We kind of love it. It runs smooth and hard. And while the car does have a lot of wheel hop, we are driving around in a low buck SS 454 4-speed El Camino. And that is the Roadkill Garage way.